Here we go, 30-second board, hot topics in the sport. The pileup at the start of 250 Supercross East, about half dozen potential race winners and title contenders down. What did you see with the complete carnage there, JT?
Well, I went back and watched this about 30 times, and really it started with Seth Hamaker getting caught up. He catches handlebars with the rider on his left. That veers him to the right, oddly enough, which is the worst possible scenario because he's on the inside and just collects everyone to his outside. And that's always the risk with these 90-degree corners, that there's really no runoff. If the inside gets collected, their momentum is going to carry them outside, and it's just a domino effect. Everybody ends up getting affected, and we saw that really play out in Detroit.
Yeah, I think Hayden Deegan was a little upset with Tom Vial because that's who he got hit by. But when you go back, you see Vial got launched from those riders on the inside. And then the poor guys on the outside, like Evan Ferry coming out of the last chance qualifier, bad gate pick, just pummeled into the wall. Luckily, he was okay, but wasn't able to finish the main event. And that first turn crash, then, like I said, half a dozen title contenders, a lot of hype on Hayden Deegan going into year two, ends up with bent handlebars and a 16th place finish. Not what he wanted.
No, but kudos to him for sticking it out. You know, those points may end up being the championship difference later in the season. And yes, he was frustrated with Tom Vial, but he's only looking at it from his perspective in the moment. I'm sure when he went back and looked at the film, he understood that it wasn't Tom Vial's fault. And I don't know if you can ever blame anybody necessarily in a crash like that. But, you know, he's really young. Emotions got the best of him. And I think there's a lot of success still here in 2024 in this series left in front of him.
Probably a lot of success coming the way of this new squad. So Triumph makes its debut. Yes, Ferry's night ended in that first turn crash, but he did win the last chance qualifier, and he looked rough in practice. So that alone, making the main, I think, was a sigh of relief. But the big one is Jalek Swoll, also caught up in that first turn crash, ends up sixth, rode well in the heat, rode well in qualifying. It did not look to me at all like a brand new motorcycle that has never raced motocross, supercross in any capacity before.
No, this was incredibly impressive. The task in front of them to go up against these established teams and motorcycles that have had years, decades of R&D behind them and little tweaks and improvements along the way, they looked the part right away. And yes, Jalek Swoll ended up on the concrete thanks to Pierce Brown. But outside of that, he was on his way to a really strong finish and still ended up getting near the top five. So I was impressed thoroughly. And you look at the star-studded roster behind this Triumph team behind the scenes, and it makes a lot of sense why they had success right away.
Yeah, they do have great personnel, but that doesn't guarantee anything. A shout out to Beta, by the way, who did make 450 mains already this year, but they had already had dirt bikes, enduro bikes, then motocross, now supercross. Triumph, this is brand new. Pretty good debut for them. And pretty good debut for some riders, starting with Dax Bennick taking a podium. I thought this was, something we had seen before, but it's like 10 years, I believe, since someone was on the podium in their first supercross race.
Yeah, it's incredible. You always wonder how a rider's going to transition from Supercross Futures into the big show, right? Having to go up against former champions, a guy like Austin Forkner who's won so many races. And yes, you could say some of them benefited by the first turn crash, but I don't know. A guy like Guillaume Ferris, a guy like Daxton Bennick, they don't have any experience on this stage. And you know how nervous they had to be. I thought they showed up. And even if this is Daxton Bennick's only podium of the year, to say you did it in your first ever race, I don't know how much better it gets than that. We do have a little bit of work to do on the Champagne opening, but I think it smiles all around for Daxton Bennick.
Yeah, you mentioned Guillaume Perez. That was solid inside the top 10. And Nick Romano also got caught in the first turn, but he made the main in his debut. Chance Hymas is like rookie-ish. Raced a few last year, almost had a podium. But he had tweaked his knee and faded back late on both the heat and the main. But overall positives to take for those rookies, including Ferry, who didn't finish, but at least he made the darn main in the first place. And with all these problems for all of these contenders, it opens the doors for career best finish. How about this one? Cody Schock. Love Cody. Awesome personality. Hardworking privateer for years with the Phoenix Racing Honda team. They let him go. Gets picked up by Club MX, Muck-Off FXR. Fourth place. Career best.
Great ride, right? And you look at the team around him. Injury to Jeremy Martin earlier in the night. They're just having everything seemingly go wrong. Jet Reynolds, his other teammate, doesn't even make it to the races in the afternoon. But then Cody steps up, gets the job done, puts their motorcycle in fourth place. So mix of emotions for Club MX, we know that. But at least there was some sort of silver lining with the late arrival of Cody Schock to this team really stepping up and delivering.
Yeah, you mentioned those teammates there. Poor Jeremy Martin. So he has a huge, really nasty to look at arm injury dating back to Pro Motocross last year. Comes back, goes down in the whoops in the heat. Did say he's banged up, but hopes to be back for Arlington. And then Jett Reynolds, as you mentioned, we thought it was a collarbone. It was an AC separation, which is a similar injury in the shoulder area. He hopes to be back as well. So, I mean, for both of these guys, you just want to see them get laps in, both the veteran and the rookie.
Yeah, it's good news actually for Jett Reynolds. I've had an AC separation and I raced right at the 3-week mark. So if something similar, if Jett can get back, yes, he'll be in some pain, but at least he would be able to rejoin the series.
Yep. And then Jeremy as well. He's in concussion protocol, so we'll see. But there is a big break. 2 weekends off for the East Rider. So hopefully time to recover. And then we have to do this. Maybe the most puzzling thing is to see Eli Tomac coming off a win, I might add, in the third leg of the Triple Crown in Anaheim. Starts the main in third, and then starts going backwards and ends up lap. Now, when someone of Tomac's caliber drops back like this and loses a lap, there's just so much speculation. You can't really take it at face value. Okay, a few people have probably said maybe he's just washed up, but that doesn't make sense because he won a Triple Crown main event going away 7 days earlier at Anaheim. Did he re-injure something? Is there a new injury? A lot of people thought maybe there was a rear suspension problem. I think that was going around quite a bit on Facebook and social media. So I did hear now, after reaching out from his team manager at Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing, Jeremy Coker, and he told me in a text there was not a shock failure in any way. His current bike setup is good on harder, drier tracks, but when we get to the sticky, ruddy dirt like this weekend at Detroit, it sucked the rear of the bike down and in turn gave him arm pump. And I might add that Eli, in these weird races of the past, has said a lot of it is when the rear of the bike feels low, it leads him to pull harder on the handlebars and leads to arm pump. So that's the story. And what's also odd is how well his teammate is riding. You could make the argument that Cooper Webb might have been the best guy in Detroit, but not on the podium. And you called it, JT, the fall down in the heat race, cost him gate pick, cost him a shot at a good start, probably cost him a shot at the win.
You're right, the heat. I had a great game plan to get a good gate pick. Tonight, I think you saw the start was very key, and I had a big hole in front of my gate, and I hit it, and it wasn't great. I came around the first turn pretty far back, so I was really happy with my ride. I charged hard, made a lot of good passes, and had the speed tonight. But like you said, it's a bummer to get fourth, but we know we're right where we need to be still, and yeah, we'll come back swinging next week.
Yeah, well, kudos to our production team for making time to interview him after the race. He got fourth, which typically we wouldn't hear from him. But I just thought it was really critical to get his side of the story and why, in a night where we're riding this well, how do you miss the podium? And, you know, I kind of led him to it because I really felt it was a critical aspect of the night. But that heat race crash where he's winning, it's going to set him up for a perfect gate pick. And he made mention, and I didn't know this, he made mention of the other side of the rut. The front of the gates was everything that mattered, and he was forced to pick a gate that had a huge hole in it. So when he went to accelerate across the gate, his rear wheel loses drive in that hole, and everyone leaves him in the dust. Had he won that heat race, guess what? He gets his pick of the gates, at least second at worst. So he's going to get that drive. It's going to get a much better chance to be up front. And on a racetrack like that, or on a night like that, if he starts 10th, you see what happens. Is it catastrophic? No, fourth is not the end of the world, but he knows every point counts right now.
Yeah, and also he was really fast in qualifying, which is not normally his specialty. With the way that track was breaking down, you knew he would have been good in the main. He just wasn't up front to take advantage of that. So with Tomac drifting back, and Webb starting back, we're left with, guess who? Jett Lawrence and Chase Sexton up front. Kind of gotten used to this, but once again, Jett gets the better of Chase. But Chase is the points leader, and you and I have been debating, if you're Chase, is that okay? You take the loss, but you're leading the points. Where is his mind right now?
Well, I think it's the chicken or the egg, because I think Chase a year ago would be really upset that he hasn't proven to be the fastest guy. He's not qualifying fastest. He's not able to chase down and pass whoever it happens to be, which in this case, it is Jett Lawrence. But this year, he seems like he's just taking what's in front of him. He hasn't been able to pass Jett Lawrence. He has not been able to straight up beat Jett Lawrence when they're battling it out yet. We need to see that. I firmly believe for him to be champion again, we need to see that. But he's taking it all in stride. He gets the red plate back. So I don't know, is it just a fluid situation where whatever the upside is, he's just going to accept that and move forward? It is a strange dynamic, the change in mindset for Chase Sexton here.
press day at Anaheim 1, our colleague James Stewart, I was watching with him Friday before the opener, and he said, you know what? Chase Sexton's going to be the new Ryan Dungey. And you're talking polar opposite styles of the way Dungey, Mr. Consistency, did it over Sexton, who last year was so fast but crashed too much. So far, Stu's theory is being borne out. Consistency has led him to the points lead. We will talk about Austin Forkner here in this win. He won, it doesn't seem like that long ago, late 2022 at Foxborough, but there had been a big dry spell before that. So really, it's been 3-4 years of struggle for Forkner. We'll get deeper into that with Clinton Fowler later, but man, what a feel-good story. Not just for Forkner, by the way, JT, but that team needed something to go their way.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to not have a smile on your face when you watch that win, because we know what he's gone through, the trials and tribulations, the injuries. It just seemed like everything was going against him, like star-crossed career, was something I was kind of looking at with Austin Forkner. And then he comes out and really dominates that main event. So even if this is the only one he gets all season, I really felt like it was a defining moment for 2024 for him.
And for the moment, Forkner has the red plate in the East, and his teammate Levi Kitchen has the red plate. He's tied in the 250 West standings with Jordan Smith for the lead there. West gets back into action this weekend at Glendale. That series is wide open. Don't forget, 4 winners, 4 rounds.
Yeah, it's easy to forget all the drama we've seen over there. You see Joe Shimoda, all the struggles he's had, but I want to see if a guy like RJ Hampshire can claw back into this championship, because to me, it feels wide open, and I love that aspect. Levi Kitchen gets that first win at Anaheim 2 a few weeks ago. It seems like it was a month ago, but it really wasn't, and we're going to be back in action this Saturday.
And to really illustrate that, we're going very diverse conditions. Detroit was kind of back to old school, even Pontiac, Michigan Supercross, really soft, really ruddy. It'll be the exact opposite probably this weekend in Arizona. So why don't you take us through the track map and also highlight how different that soil is going to feel?
Yeah, we're in the desert, right? And the track mimics that. It's going to be hard packed. It's going to be a little bit slippery in the main event. But when you look at the track itself, it crosses over each other. And what it reminds me of, honestly, is last year's Detroit. You think about that Hayden Deegan, Jordan Smith battle that went on a year ago in Detroit. It was that crossover section that's at the very end of near the first turn section. And that, I don't think that the riders necessarily love that, because there's no real technical aspects to it. You really can't do a lot of passing there. And it's almost like track filler. But true to form, Glendale always has some of the longest rhythm sections of the year. And we are getting that again. That gives them the opportunity to pull up next to somebody and make passes. So watch for those longer sections where they have the length of the stadium to work with. That's where they'll be setting up their passes.
Now we're back to Peacock and running Western races, and that'll be 3 o'clock race day live on Peacock this weekend, and 8:30 Eastern will be when the racing starts from Glendale. So do not miss that.
Hi folks, Lee Diffie from NBC Sports here. If you truly enjoyed what you just watched, you can get more news, interviews, and highlights by subscribing to the Motorsports on NBC YouTube page. You can get it all, so go for it.